Hey, what's up everybody? Sean Douglas here on this Veterans Day, and we are having a little bit of a brunch, if you will. Just hanging out, cleaning house, rearranging some things. So I just want to say everybody happy Veterans Day to all the people who have served and to those who continue to serve. But I wanted to pose a question. I wanted to pose something to you guys. I want you to really let this sink in. I want this to really, really bake your noodle. Here's what I want you guys to realize. And I really want you to consider this, okay? A lot of times people are saying, get off your phone. Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's on their phones. Like, this is all we hear. You're always on your phone. You're always on your phone. Why are you always on your phone, right? We always hear this, right? But I just want this to sink in, okay? I just really want this to sink in. I have here a Walmart magazine. I have here a Walmart newspaper, right? Everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows about magazines and newspapers or whatever, okay? So let me ask you a question. If I'm sitting here and we're all around the table, which we all are, okay? We're all sitting here, okay?
You quit showing us?
Now, listen. If I'm reading this newspaper right here, or if I'm reading another magazine, or if I'm reading any newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, any newspaper, okay? If I'm reading this newspaper,
New York Times,
okay? Or if I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, or if I'm reading the Washington Post, or if I'm reading any hometown newspaper, what is the difference if I'm reading it on my phone or I'm reading it here? I'd love to know the difference. We always hear about, we're always on our phones, but I'm sorry, hasn't the phone replaced newspapers and magazines? Let that sink in. Let it sink in. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to, it's a Target ad, not a newspaper. It's actually Walmart, not Target, but I can go to walmart.com and look up the same things. It's a whole 10-page, magazine. And then here's another one. Here's a thick book. Look at this. This is Target right here. But look how thick it is. But look how thick it is, right? If I'm reading this or I'm reading my phone, okay, what is the difference? What's the difference? When I was a kid, my grandfather used to read the newspaper at the dinner table. So was he being an asshole? Was my grandfather being an asshole because he wasn't with our family? Was he not spending time with his family even though he was reading the newspaper? If we're all watching the news, do we not say, oh my gosh, you suck, you're watching the news or whatever? No, but we're always on our phones. That's all you hear people say. He never gets off his phone. He's always on his phone. But yet we're reading the newspaper back in the 80s and 90s. We're reading these, and I'm looking at this. What's the difference? Magazines have been replaced by your cell phone. Magazines and newspapers have been replaced by the cell phone. The cell phone is the new way that we get our news. So I just want you to think about this. I really want you to think about this. If someone's on their phone, maybe they're reading newspapers. Maybe they're consuming content, because back in the day before we had cell phones, we would consume content by the TV, newspaper, magazines, or radio. But we didn't have a problem consuming it back then, but all of a sudden we have a problem consuming it now. So I just want you to think about that. The next time somebody says they're always on their phone, what are they consuming? Are they just messing around? Are they screwing around? Okay, fine. I can see that. But if they're legitimately learning, if they're legitimately consuming news, if they're legitimately doing work, I don't see what the problem is. I see the same thing about my kids with their video games. If I'm on my phone 6 hours a day, why is it okay for me to be on my phone 6 hours a day on Facebook and social media and emailing and working on my phone because I'm an online entrepreneur? But it's not okay for my kids to be on their video games for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. So let this sink in. Are we putting restrictions on ourselves and not our other family, our kids or whatever? But if we have a family member who has been for the past 20 years reading the morning news, Detroit Free Press, the news, whatever, right? And we're doing this, we're reading this, but it's not okay to be on our phones reading the same thing on Walmart.com or Target.com or Amazon. Isn't that the same thing? So I just want that to sink in for a second. Just let it bake the noodle. All right, that's all I got. Happy Veterans Day. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.